morning, students. So, last day we were discussing about the physical properties of haloalkane, and we were discussing about the physical state, or you can say the boiling point. So, we have discussed that lower member means with less number of carbon atoms, not only for haloalkanes but for every organic compound. If the number of carbon atom is less, then its boiling point also will be less because of low van der Waals force. So this is one point. So from this you can conclude that lower members, they are gaseous at room temperature, but as the number of carbon atom increases, the boiling point will increase, and then from gaseous they will become liquid, then from liquid they will become solid. Isn't it? So lower members are gaseous. Lower members are gaseous. But as the carbon chain increases, BP increases. As the carbon chain increases, IN, BP also increases. And physical state changes from gaseous to liquid and then to solid. So this is that you can understand that if boiling point is increasing, that means physical state will also change. So this is a fact for all type of organic compounds, not only for haloalkanes. Now the next point is, if I ask you two compounds I have given. One is normal butane. Hydrogen I have not written. This is normal butane, and this is, let me add one more carbon so that little difference in the molar mass will be there. And this is fluorobutane. So number of carbon atoms are same. Only one fluorine I have added. That is very small atom. Isn't it? Fluorine is a small atom with very less molar mass. So we can say these two are having comparable molar mass. One is pure hydrocarbon and another one is haloalkane of comparable molar mass. Now if I ask you that among these, which one will have higher boiling point? Which one will have higher boiling point? Number of carbon atoms are same. Fluorine is very small atom. So van der Waals force, you can say it is very close to each other. Van der Waals force, magnitude. Isn't it? So you leave that force of attraction, that is van der Waals force. I have told you that physical state we have to decide by using three attraction forces. What are those three attraction forces by which we will decide the physical state? These type of questions are asked. They will not ask that you write down the trend of physical state and all. No, they will give you few compounds and they will ask you to arrange them in increasing or decreasing order of boiling point or melting point, like that. So one is pure hydrocarbon, one is haloalkane with comparable molar mass. Now with three attraction forces, we have to decide who will have higher boiling point. The first attraction force, which is universal, is van der Waals force. Now van der Waals force magnitude is very similar in this case, isn't it? Both are having 4 carbons and one fluorine, that is also very small. And now what is the next attraction force which we have to see? Who will answer? Many times I have told you, 3 attraction forces. On the basis of that, you have to decide boiling point. First one is van der Waals, which is depending, its magnitude depends on the surface area of contact. Surface area of contact between two normal butane molecule and surface area of contact between very similar. Now, after van der Waals force, what is the next force that we will consider? Who will answer? Many times I have told you, students. Yes, Ayushi, dipole-dipole interaction. The next that we will consider is dipole-dipole interaction. Now, dipole-dipole means polarity you have to see. Hydrocarbons are totally non-polar, isn't it? But here you see carbon and halogen bond. It is going to be polar, no? Carbon-halogen bond is polar. Halogen is more electronegative. Electrons, it will shift towards fluorine. Partial negative and positive charge. Here also negative and positive charge. That means between fluorobutane molecules, dipole-dipole interaction will exist. But in case of hydrocarbons, only and only van der Waals force. Okay. Van der Waals force is universal. Everywhere it is present. But in addition with van der Waals force, haloalkanes, they also have dipole-dipole interaction. One additional force they are having. Getting my point? Now you tell me that which one will have a higher boiling point? Haloalkanes will have higher boiling point than hydrocarbons with comparable molar mass. Getting my point? Comparable molar mass means if you have taken 4 carbon, then both the compounds you take 4 carbon. You can't say that compare with butane with fluoroheptane. That type of comparison theoretically we can't do. Getting my point? So the compounds with boiling point which we are going to compare, they should have comparable molar mass. Molar mass should be very similar to each other. Otherwise, we can't compare theoretically. For that, we have to use practical data. So here, fluorocarbon will have, fluorobutane will have higher molar mass. So you just simply write down in this way that haloalkanes have higher boiling point. Haloalkanes have higher boiling point than hydrocarbons. Haloalkanes have higher boiling point than hydrocarbons of comparable molar mass. Due to, you write down that which attraction force is responsible for that. Due to that you write by your own. Due to dipole-dipole interaction, isn't it? Now, if I ask you, three compounds I have written, they all are isomers of each other, isn't it? Which isomer? They all are isomers. Which isomer? Who will tell which isomers? They all are. Okay, yes, chain isomers. They're sending answer through chat. Okay, chain isomers. Now you tell me, they all are having same number of carbon atoms, same hydrogen atoms, bromine. Now, how you will decide that which one will have highest boiling point? This is primary haloalkane, this is secondary, and this is tertiary, isn't it? We have discussed this when we are studying chain isomerism last year. All these things we have discussed. Dipole-dipole interaction is this area. They all are getting same. Now you just focus on surface area. Yes, Suryansh. According to surface area, we have to decide. Otherwise, they all are having CBr bond. Whose surface area is maximum? Whose surface area is maximum? Yes, Vaishnavi, first one, primary. See the surface area? This is the surface area. Maximum surface area means maximum magnitude of van der Waals force. And whose surface area is least? It is becoming like sphere, which is having least surface area. Isn't it? So least surface area is of third. So surface area is maximum, that means it will have maximum boiling point, then secondary, and then tertiary. So the conclusion is more and more branching, less will be the boiling point. Isn't it? So we can say primary is having maximum boiling point, then secondary, and then tertiary. Now come to solubility, that whether they are soluble in polar solvents or non-polar solvents. We all know that polar solutes, they dissolve in water, isn't it? Water can dissolve polar solutes. Haloalkanes are also polar, but it is not ionic compound. NaCl and CH3Cl, they both are polar, but NaCl is ionic compound. That is why it is soluble in water, because water can break the ionic bond, and water molecules, they surround the chloride and sodium atom that you have studied. But this cannot happen in case of CH3Cl, because it is it is a covalent compound. It cannot produce ions, isn't it, in water? And it also cannot form hydrogen bond with water. Getting my point? NaCl is soluble in water because it is an ionic compound, and water breaks the ionic bond and it dissociates the ions. But CH3Cl is not an ionic compound. Okay, so water is not going to break the ionic bond because ionic bond is absent, and ions also cannot form because it is not ionic compound, covalent compound. More than that, many covalent compounds, they dissolve in water due to hydrogen bonding that we have studied last year. Many organic compounds, even they are covalent compounds, but still they dissolve in water. The reason is only and only hydrogen bonding. And we all know that what are the conditions of formation of hydrogen bonding. Hydrogen, if it is attached with either O or N or F, isn't it? So in this case, in haloalkane's case, it cannot form hydrogen bond with water. We know that between two water molecules also hydrogen bond is present. Suppose this is a water molecule and this is another water molecule. Between these two, hydrogen bond is present. We all know this. So if you are going to dissolve any haloalkane in water, first this hydrogen bond has to be broken, isn't it? Then only new hydrogen bond will form between these two. Getting my point? But the problem is that it cannot break this hydrogen bond. So if hydrogen bond Rx cannot break, then how it can form new hydrogen bond between these two? Okay, so that is why haloalkanes, even they are polar, but they are not soluble in water. So simply you write down they are not soluble in water because they cannot form H bond with water. They cannot form H bond with water. But they are soluble in organic solvents. But they are soluble in organic solvents. Now we are moving to chemical properties. See, in physical properties, only you have to keep some tips in mind how to find out the boiling point, miscibility in water, all these things. In chemical properties, haloalkanes, they show three types of chemical reactions. First is nucleophilic substitution. Substitution. In short, SN. Second is elimination. Unsaturated, they cancel elimination reaction to become unsaturated. And third is reaction with metals. Reaction with metals. So first we will discuss about nucleophilic substitution. We are going to discuss about nucleophilic substitution reactions. We all know what is a substitution reaction. Okay, or simply displacement you can say. But here nucleophilic, what does it mean? What is the meaning of nucleophilic substitution reaction? Afterwards, we will also study about electrophilic substitution reaction. The substitution reaction that we have discussed, the first preparation of haloalkane. You just turn your page. First preparation of haloalkanes. First point. From alkanes you have written. From halogenation of alkane. CH4 plus Cl2. That was also substitution reaction. But that was free radical substitution reaction. So substitution reactions are also of many types. Free radical, electrophilic, nucleophilic. So here we are going to study about nucleophilic substitution reaction. From the name only it is clear. What is the meaning of that? Any guess? We have studied about three types of attacking reagent in class 11. One of these three types was nucleophiles. So simple, the attacking reagent is nucleophile. That's all. Now we all know that this bond is polar, negative and positive. Now what is the hybridization of this carbon? sp3 hybridization, isn't it? When I was teaching acetylene chapter last year, then I have told you, you all know that carbon can show three types of hybridization. sp3, sp2 and sp. And according to the hybridization, the electronegativity property of carbon changes. We have discussed it in acetylene topic. Now sp3 or sp2 or sp, which type of hybridized carbon will show maximum electronegativity property? Very simple. As the percentage or as the character s character increases, s orbital character increases, electronegativity will also increase. In this way, you just keep in mind. Yes, sp hybridized carbon will be the most electronegative carbon. Okay, and sp3 hybridized will be minimum electronegative, because here the S character is least and sp2 is coming in between. Sp character 50-50% S character and P character, and in sp3 25 and 75% you are getting. S character is least in sp3. So lower the S character, lower is the electronegativity of the carbon. So here sp3 hybridized carbon, that is why it is having minimum electronegativity. This you will keep in mind, that here the carbon is sp3 hybridized with least electronegativity. That is why this bond is highly polar. Bromine is already electronegative. So carbon halogen bond is highly polar in case of haloalkanes. So what will happen? Now the nucleophile will attack. Nucleophile, they are going to be anions or cations? Nucleophiles will be anions or cations? Yes, anions. Nucleus loving, that means positive charge loving. So they are anions. Now where they will attack? They will attack on this carbon, positive charge. They will attack on this carbon. So this carbon we will call it nucleophilic center. This carbon is behaving as a nucleophilic center, and that is nucleophile. So what will happen? Now the bond will break, and simply you will get this type of compound, and Br minus. This is only how the nucleophilic substitution reaction takes place. Now very small things are there. When we say nucleophilic substitution reaction, that means this carbon halogen bond is breaking. Carbon halogen bond is breaking. Halogen is leaving out. Now if I ask you that carbon fluorine bond, carbon Cl bond, carbon Br, and carbon iodine. Among all these carbon halogen bonds, which bond will break easily? Which bond you are having that it is very weak? No, Palak, I think Ci bond is maximum weak because of its largest bond length. Isn't it? So Ci bond, because of its very large bond length, it is weakest. So this bond can be easily broken. So we can say that it is the best leaving group. It can leave very easily. Iodide can leave very easily. Getting my point? It can leave the compound. Now, when we discuss about nucleophilic substitution reaction, again I am telling you, nucleophilic substitution reaction means breaking of carbon halogen bond. In next topic, in aromatic compounds, we will discuss about electrophilic substitution reaction. So this thing should be very clear. Nucleophilic substitution means breaking of carbon halogen compound. Sorry, breaking of carbon halogen bond. Now students, nucleophilic substitution reactions, they follow two paths, SN1 and SN2 mechanism. Now I just want to ask you that whether we have studied SN1, SN2 mechanism last year. In class 11, we have studied or not? I just want to ask you because I have forgotten. Okay. So here we are going to discuss the mechanism of nucleophilic substitution reaction. Two types of mechanisms are there because it is there in your syllabus. So first type of nucleophilic substitution reaction is SN2. First we are going to discuss about SN2. SN2 mechanism. But I think I have taught. Okay. Okay, Mansi is saying no. Let us see what others are saying. Not study. Okay. I have not taught anything, no? Last year. Whatever I will ask, no, miss. Hydrogen bond I have taught. Suryansh, hydrogen bond I have taught last year. No. Okay. So first we are going to discuss about SN2 mechanism. Now what is the meaning of this? 2 is for bimolecular. 2 is for bimolecular. SN means nucleophilic substitution reaction. Bimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction. It is shown by most preferably by primary haloalkanes, then secondary and tertiary haloalkanes. It is very tough for them to show SN2 mechanism. This is the trend of haloalkanes to show SN2. For primary it is very easy, then secondary, and for tertiary it is very tough to show SN2 mechanism. Getting my point? So this trend is very important, students. It is asked in different type of twisted questions. They ask this thing. So we have to take an example of primary haloalkane because they can show SN2 very easily. So primary haloalkane I am going to take. For example, the nucleophile that we are going to use, that should be stronger than this PR. Then only it can replace. So a very common nucleophile which is stronger than Br minus is hydroxyl ion, OH minus. Okay, this is the nucleophile we are using. So simply, what will be the reaction? Simply break this bond, replace this Br with OH, you will get alcohol. So this is the example of SN2 mechanism, SN2 reaction. This is not the mechanism. Now we are going to study about the mechanism of this reaction. Okay. So you first, after writing this, you first write down, it is a single step mechanism. It is single step. It is single step. Proceed through a transition state. Now you see the mechanism. The same compound I have taken, CH3CH2Br, isn't it? But here I have shown the geometry because it is mechanism, and here the carbon hybridization is sp3. Now OH minus ion is going to attack. Now you see this bond is already polar. This bond is already polar, so bromine is acquiring negative charge and this carbon with positive charge. Now if OH is going to attack from this side, OH with minus charge, halogen. So from this side, OH will not attack. OH will attack from this side. Okay, this is the first thing that you have to notice. Now from here, OH is going to attack on this nucleophilic center. Okay. Next, what will happen? You will get a transition state in this way. This is transition state. Here you can't detect the hybridization of this carbon. Transition state is continuously changing. This is transition state which is highly unstable. Within for fraction of second it comes. What we are going to show here that the new bond formation and the old bond breaking both are taking place simultaneously. Formation of new bond and breaking of old bond both are taking place simultaneously. Okay. And finally, what will happen? The old bond will break and you will get this type of compound. Now you see the orientation. Here the orientation of the groups is very important. Where you are going to keep OH and where you are going to keep CH3, then how they are oriented. Like this we are orienting them. See? Orientation, the proper orientation of these groups, it should be very correct. So you see the position of OH. So this is the single step process and it is SN2 mechanism easily shown by primary haloalkanes. Now when we say that it is a bimolecular mechanism, that means actually in physical chemical kinetics chapter we have not studied, but when we will study that chapter, after this chapter I will take that chemical kinetics. That chapter is related to order of reaction. Actually this bimolecular word is coming for order of reaction. We just write down the equation. When we call it that it is a bimolecular reaction, it means the rate of the reaction is equals to rate constant concentration of alkyl halide and concentration of the nucleophile. First you write down this equation, then I will explain what is the meaning of this equation. Very simple meaning it is saying that the rate of the reaction depends on the concentration of the alkyl halide as well as on the concentration of the nucleophile. If you change the concentration of any of these two, then the rate of the reaction will also change. Simple meaning of this equation. Getting my point? Arunima? Arunima? Okay, freeze. So, and see, here you are having power 1. If you add the powers, then you will get order of the reaction. If you add the powers, you will get order of the reaction. So, here order of the reaction is 2. Okay. That is why it is called bimolecular substitution reaction. Because on both the compounds concentration, the rate of reaction depends. Always it is not like that. Okay, you don't think that it is a general thing that in all the reactions, concentration of each and every reagent will change the rate of reaction. No, this is actually not true. But in this case, both the reactions concentrations play a very important role. Now this is about SN2 mechanism. Now after the mechanism, at the end of this mechanism, you just see the orientation of your orientation of OH group. And in the reactant, you see the orientation of Br. You look at your book or copy. Orientation of Br in your reactant and orientation of OH in your product. They both are just opposite. Isn't it? This is called inversion of configuration. Inversion. Inversion of configuration. So in SN2 mechanism, we get inversion of configuration. This is a characteristic property of SN2 mechanism. Now you just simply think that I have taken this compound. I have taken this compound as a reactant, isn't it? If I ask you that this compound will show optically activity or not, it can show optical isomerism or not. How you will decide that any compound when it shows optical activity? In detail we have studied last year. Everything is related to last year. No, in organic, once you have to basic concept of organic chemistry, once you have to again study that. You read that chapter once again. Yes, Ayushi, Chaitanya, yes. We have to find the presence of chiral carbon. Chiral carbon means the carbon which is having all different 4 groups. But here no chiral carbon we are having, no? Absence of chiral carbon. This carbon is having 2 same groups. This carbon is having all 3 same groups. So absence of chiral carbon, that means it is optically inactive. But if suppose these type of groups you are having A, B, T. Now it will be optically active. It will be optically active. Now after the whole process, when nucleophile is going to attack, at the last, what we are going to get? We are going to get this type of compound. Isn't it? At last we will get this product. Inversion of configuration. The position of Br and OH totally different. Now the thing is that if this compound is extrarotatory, then this compound will become levorotatory. Isn't it? So this inversion in configuration plays a very important role in optical isomerism also. If the compound is optically active, otherwise not. Okay. So this is about SN2 mechanism. Now we are going to proceed for SN1. SN1 mechanism. Unimolecular nucleophilic substitution. ECD is followed by tertiary, then secondary, and then primary. So we have to take example of tertiary malate case. Simple, when OH will attack, then we will get OH. Simple reaction. But this is not the mechanism, this is only the reaction. It is a two-step process. Write down, it is two-step process. Write down step one. Step one, formation of carbocation. Now see, this is the compound which we have taken, tertiary haloalkane. Now suppose OH is going to attack. From this side, totally not possible to attack. Getting? But if from opposite side it is going to attack, then also steric hindrance is there. Steric hindrance means presence of bulky groups around this sp3 attached carbon. Presence of these bulky groups. These three bulky groups with lots of electrons, isn't it? In each CH3 group, so many electrons are also present. That is why we are calling them bulky groups. And this carbon is surrounded by these bulky groups. So if OH minus ion will try to attack on this carbon, then inter-electronic repulsion will occur. Because these bulky groups are also containing large number of electrons. Getting my point? That is why it is not possible for this nucleophile to directly attack on this carbon due to steric hindrance. This is called overcrowding. So overcrowding always decreases the reactivity. Neither attack will take place nor any group will leave out. This is the problem. So first of all, what this carbon will do, it will try to minimize the Medha. Actually, this carbon, nucleophile is going to attack. But this carbon is surrounded by these bulky groups with large number of electrons. Okay, so these electrons and the OH minus is also coming with electrons. So they will repel. Okay, so that is why it is not possible for OH minus ion to directly attack on this carbon. So that is why it is a two-step process. In first step, this is a reversible process. In first step, what will happen? This bond will break. When the nucleophile is going to approach, then this bond, which is already polar, it will break. Pr minus will go out. Pr in the form of Pr minus. That means it is taking the electrons and it is leaving out. So Pr minus is leaving out. So what is remaining? Is carbon with 3 CH3 groups. This only you will have. This carbon with 3 CH3 groups. Now these two electrons bromide has taken. That is why this carbon will acquire a positive charge. Isn't it? Here two electrons were there. One electron was given by this carbon and one electron was given by this bromine. Now the bromine has taken both the electrons. One electron which was given by carbon, that also bromine has taken. So this carbon will acquire a positive charge. Carbocation formation has taken place. And we all know that tertiary carbocation is the most stable carbocation. Isn't it? That is why whenever tertiary halides they go for a reaction, they try to go through carbocation formation because tertiary carbocation is very stable. Getting my point? So two reasons due to formation of carbocation. First reason was to avoid this overcrowding. Okay. Second reason is that the tertiary carbocation is very stable. So it will form tertiary carbocation. Now what is the hybridization of this carbon? sp2. sp2 hybridization. Now the second step. Attack of nucleophile. Now you see from which direction your nucleophile will attack. you find it can attack from both the directions? Equal chance, isn't it? It can attack from this side also, or it can attack from this side also. Equal chances of this, 50-50%. So two type of configurations you will get. You can get this type of configuration, and you can also get 50-50%. Just opposite. This configuration is showing inversion of configuration, isn't it? Position of VR and position of OH is totally opposite. This is showing inversion of configuration. But in this case, position of OH and position of VR are same. So you can say it is retention of configuration. So no need to write all these things, but two different opposite configuration you can get. Now, if your compound is optically active, if here it is not active, but suppose it is optically active. Suppose different groups are present, A, B, T, and here also A, B, T. Both are optically active. Both will be optically active. No, this also, that also. But 50% dextro and 50% levo you will get. Isn't it? Muskan. 50% dextro and 50% levo you are getting. Isn't it or not? Just you tell me, isn't it, Medha? So equal amount of dextro and levo rotatory compound, that mixture is known as racemic mixture. Racemic mixture we will get in case of SN1 mechanism if the compound is optically active. Okay. Racemic mixture method, not only mixture. Equimolar mixture of dextro and levo rotatory is called racemic mixture. So two configuration is just opposite. So one is dextro, one is levo, equal amount. So racemic mixture. So this is about substitution reaction. Okay. Next day we will study about few more nucleophilic reactions.